Hi, this is the third video in my series about the Minimus Maximus module. We'll be picking up right where we left off in video 2, so if you haven't watched that one already, I would definitely recommend it. Again, if you're completely new to vcvrack or this module, I'd recommend checking out video 1. I'd like to start with a quick listen to the patch as it is, just so we can appreciate the changes that we're about to make. For the first step, we'll need an adder sec, and eventually we'll use another chances module. I'm going to go ahead and set the adder sec to 7 steps, and we're going to clock this with the minimum gate output from input B on the Minimus Maximus module. I'll go ahead and connect the reset to the clock. We're going to be using this to alter the clock length on the 8 sec for voice 1. So go ahead and connect that. And then I'll slide things over just to make some room. I'm going to go ahead and leave step 1 alone. Step 2, I'll set to negative 1.5 volts. Step 3 will be negative 3. Step 4, negative 4.5. Then negative 3, negative 1.5. And we'll leave step 7 alone. You can see that this is clocking the adder sec fairly fast. So this is where we're going to use the chances module to slow things down, just like we did in the previous video. So I'll take this, run it into chances, run that back into the adder sec. Go ahead and give voice 1 a listen here. Next, we'll be using this harmony module, as well as a quantizer. And shortly after that, we'll be using this sequential switch. Start by taking the volt per octave from the croon, and run that into the harmony module. You can certainly experiment with different intervals here. I'm going to use the perfect fifth, run that back into the quantizer. This will help keep us in key, and I'll run that back into the croon. Before we listen to that, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the ADSR envelope from the minimum voice. Because we've gone up a perfect fifth, I think that's placed the bass voice a little too close pitch-wise to the other two voices. So we're going to go ahead and bring that down an octave on the quantizer. Go ahead and set the sequential switch to 2 steps. I'm going to use this to switch back and forth between the harmony pitch and the original pitch. So we'll go ahead and disconnect this from croon and put this in input 2 of the switch. I'll take the original pitch here and run that into output 1, or input 1, sorry. And I'm going to trigger this with the same chanced slope detector gate output. So that is right here. Go ahead and connect that. So now every time we get a new pitch and gate coming out of the minimum voice, it's going to go ahead and switch back and forth between the original pitch and the harmony pitch. Of course, that only works if I connect the switch back into the croon. I'd like to tidy this signal path up real quick. Before we listen to that, I've set up a new ADSR envelope. Here are the settings. I'll go ahead and connect this back to the minimum voice on the mixer. And we can give that a listen. Now, if you don't want that switch to trigger so frequently, again, you can use another chances module to slow that down. For the next step, I'll need another chances module and another adder sec. I'm going to go ahead and set this to 6 steps. We're going to be using this to alter the probability of the chances module that is giving us new pitches and gates to the minimum voice here. So we're going to go ahead and pull this down. Now this is set up so that there's a 90% chance for things to come out of output A. So if I add a positive voltage here, essentially we're going to decrease the amount of notes and gates that are coming out of this. We're going to leave step 1 at 0. Step 2, I'll set to 1 volt. Step 3, 2 volts. Step 4, 1 volt. I'll leave step 5 alone, and I'll set step 6 to -1. Go ahead and connect the adder sec with the probability of chances here. We're going to take the minimum gate output from input B on the Minimus Maximus module, connect that to this chances, connect that to the clock of the adder sec. Now you'll notice that we're using the same gate output here to drive 2 different events in the patch. Because we're using 2 different chances modules, essentially they might trigger at the same time sometimes, but not all the time. In a little bit, we'll be looking at another way to get more gate outputs from this module in this patch, and we will use one of those new outputs to drive this. I'm going to go ahead and tidy this up, and we can give that a listen. Next, we'll be covering 2 different situations that I find myself in pretty often when I'm using this module in a patch. So situation 1 is, what if I want to raise this first 8 sec by an octave? So if I do that, you can see that the minimum and maximum gate outputs get hung up on this module, which obviously is going to affect all of the other events that we're triggering with that. So it's an easy fix. I can just use an octave module and put this over here. And I'll take the volt per octave output, run it in here, plug this back in. I'll go ahead and lower that an octave. And this way I've raised voice 1 by an octave, but I've kept the different inputs here close together, so we're getting more frequent minimum and maximum gate outputs. The next situation is, what if I want to add a third input to this Minimus Maximus module, but I don't really want to change the values that I'm already getting out of it. So for that, we'll need another Minimus Maximus module. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the same inputs. So input A, input B, and then I'm going to take the input into croon and put that into input C. Set up 3 scopes so we can see the problem that's going on here. So if I connect the minimum and maximum gate outputs, so because this is the bass voice, it is hung up on the minimum gate output. So we can basically use the same strategy as before and use another octave module. And if I raise this 2 octaves and then take input C, run it into here, and run that back in. So now I have gates that are switching frequently, and I have a whole new set of gates that I can use to affect other events in the patch. In fact, I'm going to take the minimum gate output from input A, and I'm going to use that to trigger the adder sec that's affecting the probability for the minimum voice. Disconnect that. I won't be using them in this patch, but in theory, this would also give me access to a new mean value and also potentially a new minimum and maximum value compared to the original Minimus Maximus module. Next, I'm going to be setting up a delay bus. I'm going to set up a high-pass filter, which I'll set the frequency for about here. Take the dry wet knob all the way wet. Set this to ping pong. I'll also double up on the delay time. I'm going to set this adder sec to 2 steps. I'll leave step 1 alone, and I'll set step 2 to 10 volts. We're going to connect this to the loop function on the chronoblob. Also connect the chronoblob to the clock output. We're going to go ahead and set the clock back to 60 beats per minute. And I'll take the minimum gate output from B and use that to drive the adder sec. And then I'm going to go ahead and send voice 1 and voice 2 to the delay bus. I'm going to tidy up the patch, and then we'll have our final listen. In the next video, we'll be exploring the mean and maximum output of the Minimus Maximus module. Until then, happy patching.